Welcome to the Chop Shop. My name is Benny, and I am so glad that you are here. And today's episode, I brought special guests, my beautiful, lovely wife, Ruthy-san.
Hi.
Say hi into the mic, babe.
Hi.
There we go. She's like, hey, what's up? So I brought my wife back on. Sorry. We've already been laughing for like 5 minutes trying to get this thing started. But I convinced her again. I paid her enough this time. She said, fine, I'll come on this time. And so thank you so much for taking my money and coming on
You're welcome.
to my podcast. I just got to say this, and I know, I know you've seen some of the stuff that we did with Jay a couple weeks ago. It's been the response from it, and I'll tell you, because so here's the thing. Like my wife supports the podcast, but doesn't watch every episode. And so I asked her before. I was like, "Wait, you watched the Jay stuff, right?" She's like, "I haven't gotten to it yet."
I mean, I heard bits and pieces of it.
She was literally sitting, exactly, 10 feet away. So I got like some really cool, like responses, like reactions from people that honestly would probably never listen to me or follow me. And I'm not saying that like it was me that drew them in. It was Jay, his story, who he is, the people he's involved with that drew in this crowd of people. And that's probably why you're here, because you saw that episode and said, I'm going to keep rolling with Benny, which if that's true, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing that. But I got hit up by a couple people, and one guy specifically just saying, hey man, like I just wanted to say, like I found you because of the Jay episode, and your content is like what I need in my life right now.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
it's like a huge like positive like voice in my life, and the things you talk about is what I really want my life to be about. And so, and I looked, and it's a guy that obviously I don't know. I don't think I've ever would have met him. And to hear that type of stuff, like I'm like, okay, this is the reason why I do it, because I'll probably never meet him in person. Maybe I will. I don't know. I don't even know where he lives. But I mean, the fact that he checked out the Jay episode and then went back and checked out other things too, and said, hey, like, dude, your stuff is really good, and I love what you're talking about. Like what kind of like made me feel, up in the clouds is really just his like, man, I really want to like my life to be about the things that you're talking about, like that's the direction I want to go in.
Yeah.
So that was been really cool to just kind of hear that back, and then hear people that we know and know Jay, like just, hey, like that podcast was awesome, your guys' conversation was great. Jay's story is amazing. So again, so I just want to say just thank you to everyone that listened to it, has liked the reels I've gone up. The amount of likes on those have been crazy, and it's been amazing just to see how it kind of hits the algorithm, and people just start. And again, Jay's story is amazing, and it's honestly, his story is like relates to a lot of people. So I think that's why a lot of people like kind of gravitate towards the story and are getting into the content. It's because Jay's story is just, it's amazing. It's a great story. It's a true story, right? And so it's really, really cool. But today, I wanted to kind of switch things up a little bit because, this was my intention to begin with, is to have people come on the podcast and talk with them, have great conversations, real conversations about all kinds of things, right? Like not just sharing our stories, but not just like in the way that Jay did, but also talk about the areas of life that we are in. And for you and I mean, our lives really revolve around leading our family, right? And trying to teach our kids, direct our kids, help our kids, and at the same time, like our marriage and our relationship. And so today I wanted to kind of get into kind of like the parenting side of our life, and talk about some of the things that we've been going through the last month or two. And really what kind of sparked me wanting to bring you on and talk about this was the fact that we just got done doing a small group. It was called Parenting on Purpose, and we did it with our local church with I don't know how many other couples, maybe like a dozen other couples, would you say? Maybe more, right?
Probably. I mean,
Couple
yeah.
dozen, probably. Maybe. I don't know.
People.
Yeah, I mean it was a nice little group of people that came. And yeah, so I just kind of wanted like for us to talk about that experience and that has what that has done for us, what it's been like since we've done it. It's been over now for a little bit, but yeah. So like, what are your like first initial thoughts about that group?
I loved it. Honestly, though, during that time, those Tuesday nights were some of my favorite because you're coming together with other parents who, once you start talking to them, you realize you guys are all just like living the same life, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like they're going through the same struggles.
Right.
Like, because a lot of times I'm thinking like, wow, like I feel so lonely in this season, and
Yeah.
or like so lonely in like this specific thing that we're going through with our kids, and then you go and you share stuff, and they're like, our kids are a little bit older than theirs, but it's like they're going through exactly what we went through when they were at that age
Yeah.
or in that specific season. And so it made me feel seen. It made me obviously feel like less lonely, and
Yeah.
there was just so many good like nuggets of wisdom and throughout the
Yeah.
class, and a lot of things that either confirmed what I had like been thinking about or praying about, or whatever, or just good tips and things to try out with our kids, and then also things that other parents have tried that like we tried or we're
Yeah.
gonna try or whatever, with ours, and I couldn't recommend it enough. It's awesome.
Yeah. I think that was what I really enjoyed. So like what I really enjoyed about the small group is that there wasn't any homework. I'm beyond like right. Like there isn't like this like pressure of, oh man, I have to get this done in order to be able to come next week ready.
Yeah.
It was like a 30-minute, like just kind of a small teaching, not even 30 minutes. And then the rest of it was just table discussion, like talking about it, talking about our lives, our parenting lives, our relationship with our kids, and then like giving each other either encouragement or comfort or tips on what to do better.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed it as well. Like I think it was a much needed I wouldn't say refocus, but it was a much needed boost in an area that I think, for me personally, like I've been trying to be more intentional about, just trying to figure out like what does it look like, what are some things I could use or do. And honestly, the group taught a lot of just perspective. It was a lot of
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
There was great tips and great like stories and how to's, but it was more perspective.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, because it wasn't like, okay, this is how you fix your kids. Step one,
Yeah.
do that. It was definitely, like you said, perspective, changing the way that you obviously think about things, but seeing things the way that God intended it to be as well.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a good thing for us to be able to like, like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a tool bag, just something that we can, like, there's things in there that we can grab and pull out and use them when we need them, for certain moments. And we met a lot of cool people that I don't know if we would have met if we didn't do it.
Yeah.
Those people that we knew, that we, were at the same table sometimes. And then it was funny how like over the weeks, our table like just kind of formed.
Yeah.
And the last 3 or 4 weeks we had our table. And but there was like a few couples that we met that we probably wouldn't have like even connected with really in the way we did. Some of it too was us like taking a look at our parents, like our parents, and then like drawing the connection on why we do the things we do now, and then being able to draw it back to. And I'm not saying this like the bad, all the bad stuff is.
Yeah.
I'm not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like the things that we do now as parents. A lot of it we just picked up from our parents because that's what we saw. That's what we know. What was that like for you to have to like And I'm not just saying the bad stuff, but like just coming to those, like that is something that my mom did or my dad did, or what was that like for you to have like draw that line back to your parents when it came to like certain parenting things that you do now?
I mean, some of it was like a bit eye opening, or it was like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. Like, cause like you said, some of it just comes second nature with things that you do because that's really all
Yeah,
you know. And so some of that stuff, like I had to unlearn, or some other things, it was more like, oh, okay, like that makes sense, like
yeah,
that. Okay, I can see why
yeah,
I think that way, or I can see why I talk to my kids that way, or stuff like that.
yeah.
What about you?
I think, um,
Because I feel like that's something that you didn't think of as much.
no, no. I mean, I think I've shared this before on the podcast that I, when we first got married and we were talking about family, I just kind of assumed I'm gonna be a great dad because I have a great dad.
Yeah.
So like, um, but I don't know. I think there were things that maybe I won't. I'm not gonna say that my dad was wrong in. I'm gonna say like the way that I perceive things to be
Mm.
might have been
Mhm.
wrong.
Yeah.
Because when I did those things with my kids, I was like, oh, that's probably not the best way to go about that, right?
Yeah.
To always, I mean, the kids need me to be firm sometimes, like that's for sure. I'm not saying that I need to be, like retract all the way, but I think there was definitely like some, I don't even want to say anger issues, but just I showed my frustration a lot, and I don't think that
Mhm.
that's like I don't know. I don't know. I didn't feel good when I did that, or when I do that sometimes. Like I don't feel the
Yeah.
best when I show my frustration and like let a situation or even let the kids get to me like that, where I'm showing my frustration. Because I do want to think that I am always being mindful of like I want like my relationship with my kids to look similar. It's not gonna be exactly, but look similar to the way that God loves us, right? Our relationship with God and the way that God treats us as His kids, and so I want it to look similar. I want there to be like some like, oh well, there's some
Mhm.
similarities. Obviously, I'm not God, but you know some of the characteristics and things that God does. Um, but having to draw that line back to like I'm just gonna say my dad because I was the one that I referred to a lot during the group. I
Yeah.
think I think like drawing that line, it's like okay, well that makes sense. Like why I do the things that I do because I saw my dad do this. But even though I saw my dad do it, I think I just might have perceived it wrong or just looked at what he did and say that's gonna work without understanding all the other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah.
Because my dad is a man of very few words. He's not the biggest talker. I think, and I think my dad knows this too. My dad actually probably maybe tried to avoid the hard conversations, and I think he trusted us to make right decisions
Mm.
and try to avoid having the hard conversations and just kind of. I think he gave me a lot of room to just what do you think you should do type of thing.
Mhm.
Which I made some great decisions and I made some very bad ones,
Mhm.
but I think he really tried to avoid those conversations where I'm like, I want to have those conversations,
Yeah.
and that's just the type of person I am is obviously is why I have the podcast because I like having conversations. Um, and I wouldn't say it's like that I trust Abel, it's not to say that I trust our kids less or I think they'll make bad decisions. In fact, I'm pretty confident in the decisions that my kids make.
Mm.
Um, I want to have that conversation because I feel like that's where you really like figure things out.
Yeah.
You're like the thinking out loud, like reasoning and trying to make sense of things. And especially in a day like today where nothing really makes sense
Yeah.
and there's so much confusion because your parents say one thing but your teacher says something else and then the government says this but your church says that. and but your friends say that, so like there's this like, well, who's telling the truth? Because they
Yeah.
all somewhat are saying the same thing as far as like, this is the best thing for you, like this is what you need, but trying to figure that out is tough. And I think for me, like, and my kids, I want to have those conversations at home with them, um, to help them make sense of it all, really.
Yeah. Well, and that's where you're going to make connections with your kids, and there's going to be that trust. And so with that, they're going to be more, what's the word? Like they're going to have that trust in you through your conversations, and they're
Yeah.
going to be able to like know that, like, the internet says this and my friend says this, the teacher says this, but like I believe my dad because he knows
Yeah.
what's best, and
Right.
or he's going to teach me what is the better thing to do. But yeah.
I mean, hopefully,
Yeah.
there will be some parts where I'm sure my kids are going to be like, my dad doesn't know anything. He's old. He doesn't know what it's like to, because that's what I said about my dad.
Yeah.
My dad's old. He doesn't get it. Like, he doesn't get what it's like to be a Christian today. Because my dad, like, doesn't and still doesn't like any hip hop, right? And so I'll even have like Christian hip hop on, and my dad like, "What is this? This sounds horrible." And I'm like, "You don't get it, Dad. You're old. You don't get this is what
Yeah.
this is what we listen. This is how we worship God today, right?" Like, so I know my kids are gonna they're gonna say that about me too. But I mean, what I want them to think and say is, like, I can go to my dad and talk about it, and it'd be like a safe place to do
Yeah.
so. And I'm not saying that my parents made me feel it wasn't a safe place, because I knew I could, but I was afraid to, for sure, just
Yeah.
because
No,
of the
I for sure. And
repercussion.
my mom never really had like hard conversations with me either
Yeah.
about like just topics,
I don't ever remember
confusing
having
topics or
I don't
any.
ever remember having a conversation about sex.
I don't either. I don't even think she really even talked to me about like my period. I found information of that through a book
That's
that my
crazy.
cousin gave me. It was more like, oh, around this age, this might happen, but like very superficial, like not what a
Yeah.
period really was. So again, those tough conversations, like they didn't really
Yeah.
exist in my home, and because of that too, like I didn't feel like I could go and ask her questions or just like what was on my mind, because also I had that fear of like, well, I'm gonna get in trouble if I ask her this question.
Yeah.
Oh, she's gonna think that I'm involved in certain things or that I'm thinking about certain things already, and it's like, no, I just heard it or like I saw it, so
Yeah.
I'm curious or I just want to know. But
I think, and I don't know if this is a Latino thing, but I think there very much is a fear of like talking about things too soon,
yeah.
like
Well,
not
yeah.
exposing your kids to things, right? But I mean, honestly, I think like when a kid begins to ask questions or is going outside to look for an answer for something, you're kind of falling behind already,
Yeah, for sure.
like. But again, if and this is what I'm saying, like I want, and I'm saying Abel, Mattel, because they're the older ones, but all of my kids, right, Medalia too. Like I want them to feel like when those questions do come, and they can come and ask me or ask you,
Yeah.
and feel okay doing so.
Yeah.
Because you want to start talking about books that talk about periods and stuff. There's books, all kinds of books today that talk about other stuff that, for sure, it's like I want them to talk to me about this stuff first, and
Yeah. Which I mean, I feel like we're doing a good job about that. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Abel is already asking questions about that,
Well,
and
because now
and
you go
he's
into a store and it's in your face now.
yeah.
You know,
Oh, anywhere really.
no, I know it's anywhere, but still, you go to
Yeah.
a store, and the problem I have with things like that is just like it doesn't give the kids the opportunity to like naturally go into those conversations. It forces that conversation, even if the child is not ready.
Yeah.
And I'll even say even before the parent is ready. Like, I had a conversation with a buddy this week about, this whole thing, and I'm not gonna, you know, and his son like asked him a question, right? And then my buddy was like, dude, I was thrown back. I was not ready. He's like, I was not ready to have that conversation, but we did, and it went pretty good. I just wasn't ready to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And again, I think that is like kind of like the thing that sucks about everything is that it is forcing our hand to have these conversations a little earlier than probably we should. But because
Yeah.
of what's out there, it's like, well, we have to. Because if we don't ask, our kids are going to ask. And like I said, when they start asking, you're kind of falling behind the
Yeah.
ball.
And then who do you want them
Right.
to go and ask those
Yeah.
questions? You
Right.
or their friend, or God
Yeah.
forbid they search the internet because it's at their fingertips.
Right.
And Abel can spell and read very well.
I
So,
know.
like,
And YouTube is a
we
dangerous
have
place
to
for
be
a
careful.
child.
Yeah.
So, or like even like, some of the games that are connected to online and the way they can chat to each other and stuff is
Yeah.
kind of so. But anyway, I mean, I think
That's a whole other
that is a
podcast
whole other
episode.
part. We could talk about games.
Roblox
Are they
is
of the devil?
devil.
Is Grand Theft Auto the devil?
Roblox for sure. Your kids should not be playing that.
There are a lot of parents that let their kids play Roblox, but at the same time, my parents let me play GTA. So I know.
Wow.
But honestly, I don't think they
Pastor's
really.
kid
I don't think
was-
they really knew what it
I
was.
probably didn't.
Sorry.
They're like, oh, racing game? Yeah,
Yeah,
go
you can
ahead.
race cars. Wait, why are you beating up that guy over there? um, so this group like really talked about a lot of perspective, a lot of heart. I think I shared it on the podcast a few weeks ago. But one of the things that really stuck out to me, and I shared it with you a few times as well, because I really, really love the idea and the thought of building a culture in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you believe in as a family? What do you stand for? What do you do? Making statements like, right, the Contreras, we do this. We make each other laugh. We love other people. We make them feel right. Like, but making these statements and then building this culture in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that was like for me a big takeaway from that group was just like, yeah, like I could do that. Like that's what I
Yeah.
want to do, right? Like it kind of gave me a picture of that's it.
Yeah, and it made it feel doable as opposed to
Yeah.
it being like, oh, like this is gonna be hard. This is gonna
Yeah.
take, which it could take some time, but
Yeah.
definitely very like doable.
It's a lot easier.
Even with their kids being little.
It's a lot easier to digest than like, oh, you got to build a Christian home. You got to build
Yeah.
a home that believes in the Lord. Like, okay, but what does that look like? Like, what how do I do that now? And when they were talking about building a culture in your home, like, and I don't know about you, but the family I immediately thought about were our friends, the Cordovas, because I've heard them make those statements to their kids. So much that it stuck in my head. I'm like, yeah,
Even you know.
us Cordovas, yeah, that's what we do, right? Like, because it's stuck in my head. But when I heard that, I'm like, that's like what they do. That's
Yeah.
what they do. They literally they affirm their kids like, this is what our family does.
Yeah.
This is what we believe in. This is what we're about. I'm like, and it was a light bulb. I was like,
Yeah.
that's it. That's what it is to build a Christian home or build a home of the things that you believe in and you value. That's what it's all about. And so, and culture is caught. It's not taught. Like these are things that naturally happen in the home, and the kids they see things and they go, oh yeah, this is what we do, right?
Yeah.
So like, I love that idea. I love that thought, and I feel like you and we've made little adjustments here at the house and like what we do, right? Like I think, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I've done a pretty good job in not like yelling and raising my voice like I have before in the past. Because I one of the things I told the kids is like, we're not yelling anymore. We're done
Yeah.
yelling. We're gonna talk it out. We'll talk. If we need to take a moment, step away, we will. But we're not yelling anymore. We're not screaming. We're not. I don't. They're probably like, oh shoot, they scream at each other. But we're not like yelling at each other, screaming at each other, like. Because Mateo is, he gets mad and he just goes from here to here. in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You know, and so and
But
sometimes
I've even seen it trickle down to him too, because like
yeah
he's caught himself, and like if you remind him like, oh, like remember we
yeah
said we weren't gonna yell,
yeah
or he'll tell me like, Mom, remember you said you weren't, or able to tell me, Mom, remember you said we weren't gonna yell. But I've seen Mateo a couple of times where he'll yell at me and I'll like look up at him, and then he's like, Mom, I'm gonna work on my yelling. I shouldn't yell.
yeah
And then he'll repeat his sentence over again.
yeah
And so like, yeah,
yeah. So like I mean
it's doing something.
that's a small thing, but I mean for me that's a big thing because that's something that I would do when I got mad. I yelled.
Yeah.
When they gave me attitude, I yelled. Like, but just saying, hey, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna talk it out though. We're gonna have a conversation about it. Yeah, conversation. We're gonna have a conversation about it, and we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, has really kind of helped. You know, and then I mean, it was kind of an interesting timing when we did the group because we were doing Mateo's T-ball as well, and so we were like getting out of the house more. You know, because the
Yeah.
T-ball with practice and then the games on Saturdays, and then I started playing softball. So now we're going out
Another
day, and so like if you notice, we're not as home. We're not as home.
We're not home as much.
We're not home as much. We're not as home. We're not at home as much as before, which I think is also like helping just our ability to kind of like decompress,
Yeah.
get clear, like, and be able to like have fun and talk and
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree, and I think it's nice and it's healthy for them to see their parents doing something that they like and have fun and do stuff, and then obviously we enjoy seeing them get out and
Yeah.
like be kids and like not be stuck on a screen or
Right. Yeah.
or be stuck here at home saying like I'm bored or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And obviously seeing them thrive in something that they like to do and finding something like a passion of theirs.
Right.
So yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah, because interesting, like, I know for me growing up, we were outside every day for hours, until the sun went down. Then we had to go home. And so kind of seeing like how the kids kind of don't do that. I'm like, man, that's so interesting.
well, they don't do it because we don't let them, not because they don't want to. Otherwise, I'm sure if I was just like, oh yeah, go and play and come back, like I could never. In this day and age, 2023, I could never, like, just, even if I would need to sit out there and physically watch them with my eyeballs the entire time. I can't just be like, oh, go and play and stay out of trouble, don't talk to strangers, and come back in 2 hours. Like, so it's different. We're not growing up in the same time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it is a little different, but
that's a lot of different.
I don't think it's that much different. Mm-hmm. You think it is because you're a mom and you're like, I'm gonna worry for everybody.
Okay.
But it's a little different, not like a lot different.
A lot of different. Okay.
No, it's a little. Any last thoughts from the parenting group and like some of the things that you heard that you really enjoyed and are trying to or want to apply?
Oh, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, I will mention two. One of them is, in one of the classes, he talked about like honoring each other, honoring our family, honoring like just honor in general, right? Yeah. There's different levels of it. And so something that we've kind of added into our vocabulary here at home is like, does that honor God? Or like, are you honoring the person next to you? Or are you honoring like, your brother, whatever? Or sure, like how can we honor that person? One of the things that he had mentioned is like, for example, if me and you are talking and Mateo were to come and just start talking to me, instead of kind of either yelling at him or being like, do you not see that I'm talking to your dad? Like, stop, One of the things that he said that he taught his kid to do is like having them just put their hand on your arm or whatever, and that would signal to the parent like, oh, I know you have to tell me something important. I want to honor you and giving you the time and the attention you need, And so I'm going to get to you, but I also need you to understand
Yeah.
and honor the person that I'm talking to, and knowing that what they have to say is important as well. And so kind of taking turns. And so I've been trying that with Mateo, because he obviously
Yeah.
struggles with that a little bit more. And so doing that. And then another thing is like, when it comes to like disciplining, and like when, let's say, Abel hits Mateo for whatever reason, when you do something wrong like that, and you go and say sorry, like understanding why you're saying sorry.
Yeah.
But also, the important thing is like that you're fixing the relationship, because at the end of the day, that's the important thing. So there was trust broken, or there was feelings hurt there, but like, I'm not just gonna say sorry, but like, what do I need to do to fix that relationship? Because at the
Right.
end of the day, that's what's gonna matter. So like, I've been asking them, like, okay, like, how can we fix it? Like, we can say sorry. If we broke something, we can try and fix it or replace it. If
Yeah.
you hurt his feelings, like, how can you help, make him feel better?
Yeah.
But he touched a lot on like mending relationships, and there being like grace, and just, again, making sure that relationship is what's the word,
Reconciled.
reconciled.
Yeah.
Because that's what matters.
Yeah.
Which I really like, because obviously that's important, not just within the family, but like with your friends, with
Yeah. With
your
other people.
coworkers,
Yeah.
just any human, really. So yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are just a few of our takeaways from the group, which was Parenting on Purpose by Pastor Chris Hodges, who is really, really good. He does other curriculums as well. But we share this because we know that there are parents out there that just feel like, they just, what do I do? How do I handle this? What is it that I'm missing? And getting in groups that talk about parenting, especially at your church, and getting in that curriculum can be life changing. Like, not just getting the actual information, but being able to discuss it with other people that you probably wouldn't talk to, and building community is what really, like, is what changes it. And it has for us, it really has made us. And then the cool thing is that we'll see people that were in that group, and we'll like spark up little conversations on the side now, at church. And it's been really cool too. So yeah, we just wanted to share a little bit of just of like kind of our experience of this 8-week course. It's only 8 weeks. It actually goes by pretty quick. And so if your church is offering it, we highly encourage you to get into it. If not, go see if you can get your hands on the curriculum, on some of the teachings that Pastor Chris does, or any type of parenting curriculum that your church may be offering, or you can get in community with, or even just creating your own and get in a group of people that will encourage you and help you, and you can give tips and ideas. Like, it's not like just this curriculum that is the only thing that can help, but I think it's just the idea of like connecting with other parents and doing it together and helping each other out is like what can be encouraging. So we hope that will help, and that will at least give you some ideas of what you could do. And so any final thoughts, final words, babe?
No.
Other than that you love me, and no? Okay. Well, she loves me, guys, don't worry. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this week's podcast episode. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, or you can also go to any podcast app and just look up Benny's Chop Shop. If you just want an audio only version, it's there. If you're listening to this on the audio version, we're on YouTube. I'm on YouTube too. My wife sometimes is here too. She's here right now. Look at her. She's right there. So you can go on YouTube and you can see this instead of just listening to it if you want, Benny's Chop Shop Podcast, and subscribe to the channel, like the video, like the episodes. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great week. And until next week, peace out.